long time ago in a galaxy almost far, far away, four makers unite in order to share and discuss their maker knowledge and some interesting topics along the way. Join us as we light the spark that brings back your childhood in the Almost Star Wars show!
What's up, guys? It's great to be back for another episode of the Almost Star Wars show. And as always, I'm here with my friends.
Dennis from the Black Market Outpost.
CG artist.
Brian from the Smuggler's Room.
And this time we are going to talk about Ahsoka. Thoughts and theories. We're going to find out what everybody thinks. We've all watched it all. It's all just finished recently. We've been talking about this constantly. We all have our own ideas, all have our own thoughts. But let's just break it open, and we'd love to hear what you guys think of it too down in the comments. So let's hit it off. I'm going to save myself a little bit later on. I'm really interested in what all of you guys have got to say. So who wants to take it from here? What do we think of Ahsoka? Thoughts and theories?
Overall, I like the show. I like it better than some of the other recent Star Wars shows. Pacing was really well. Visual effects were stellar. I mean, really, really done well. As I say with most of these things, there's some hits and there's some misses. I'll start with the misses. So I guess the bad news first, right? One thing I wish they would have done is added Zeb. Nowhere to be seen, and I thought he'd be there, especially since he was teased in The Last Mandalorian. So it was a little disappointing to not have him come in there at some point. I mean, where could they have squeezed him in when the rebels were looking, for Ahsoka and them, or have orders to turn back? Maybe he could have been in that scene. It's hard to tell. I don't know the whole history because I've not watched Rebels all the way to the end, so I can't say. But the fact that he was with Rebel pilots, in Mandalorian, it just seems like they would somehow be together here. But I guess they were just at a bar, so I don't know. It would have been nice to see a wonderfully digital Zeb in there. Aside from that, I think, and I said this, I've said this before, I'm not a huge fan of the way the whales and hyper speed went. That's just, I don't know. I feel like something else could have been done with that.
Whales.
It's kind of weird. Space whales or whatever they're called. I know I should know, but I don't know. I almost
Ergil.
Oh, that's what they are.
There's
And they
our
do
boy
light
Dennis.
speed, evidently, which is super convenient.
They're the creators of light speed. Without
Are
them,
they
there
really?
would be no light speed.
Did not know that. Dennis, the encyclopedia, has set me straight.
Yeah,
But-
I couldn't agree with Ron more. The Zeb thing, I thought they missed the opportunity when Carson Teva and his team were flagging the ghost,
Mhm.
right? He should have just
Yeah.
been a part of that team. That's
Yeah.
where we saw him. That's where he was.
He was in
Why
a
didn't
pilot's
they-
outfit, right?
I feel like they
Mm.
missed. That was the opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. And then from there, he could have slowly worked his way either back into the crew or just continue to do whatever he was doing with Tava and the team.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as a show goes for me, I think I agree with Ron 100%. One of the better shows we've seen in recent times. But I'm a big fan of Ahsoka. You guys know that. But I still think there were a lot more misses than there were hits in this show.
What were some of the
Two-
misses?
Like, I feel like it was too open-ended almost in every episode. There was never a beginning, middle, end. Or even a beginning, middle, hey, we're going to continue it.
Yeah.
I felt like every episode was not necessarily individual, but almost came off as they were little individual movies rather than like a series to where you could just go from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And then, the ending, I wasn't happy with the ending. It wasn't terrible. I enjoyed watching it, but I feel like they were about 2 episodes short of an ending. Obviously, we'll see where it goes.
I had some serious conflicts with the whole thing because I'm a big fan of Rebels. I thought that story arc in Rebels is probably one of the better Star Wars story arcs ever done. Yeah, it's a kid show, and we all get that. And I've watched numerous conversations online about, not liking Ahsoka, and the argument is, well, if you haven't watched Rebels, you're not going to like it. And there's this conflict between the fans that are diehard and they watched everything, including all the animated series, and then those that hadn't. And I think that's where this struggles a little bit as a series for live action, especially for those that haven't spent the time to watch all of that. So what happens, if I'm looking at the misses first, I'm going to say that we didn't get a lot of character development. We got a lot of long pauses, right? We got a lot of staring at each other for a really long time without doing anything, but that's not as effective if it's not specifically planned. So when you look at the run times, I'm the one that always complains about run times, but you get one episode that's 58 minutes long and another episode that was 32 minutes long. I struggled trying to understand the logic when you're trying to take 8 episodes and take us through a serious amount of story. And so you end up with a lot of really surface level tales in each one of those episodes. So it kind of speaks to what you're saying, Dennis. It feels like there never was an arc to this.
Right.
And if I'm going to zero in on a couple of things, I've thought about this for the last few days before we got together here, was what were the things that I was really happy with. The visuals, as Ron mentioned, we were getting some really interesting things there. Seeing the Ghost in live action, I mean, that ship is just as awesome to me as the Falcon is in a lot of regard. If I'm focused in on the misses, the big things that strike me are, it did not feel like a grand show. And I hate to make the comparison, so I'll keep it at surface level between like it and Andor. Andor felt like a massive movie with a lot of budget behind it. And the relying on the volume alone, or not the volume, what do they call it? Is it the volume or the vault?
The volume, yeah, that's
the
correct.
volume. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't get that grand feel to it. We went all the way to a galaxy we've never seen, and we ended up on a planet that looked like it was a TV show filmed in the 80s where there was just no budget, right? All those Star Trek episodes, they all had the same kind of landscape because they went to the same 4 places in California to film every time. And so you bring that scale down. So each episode to me felt a little bit like the scale of the show was small when it should have been massive. And then the last hang up for me kind of takes place when we finally get to this other galaxy. I don't know what I expected, and I tried not to have expectations, but I sure expected there to be more of either a conflict between Thrawn and Ezra, or some understanding that there had been things going on. Because how long were they there? We're talking
10 years.
10 years.
Yes.
So for 10 years, Ezra was just hanging out with the turtle people, and Thrawn was just building his revenge. It's like, really? That's not what Ezra's character was like. And it's certainly not what I would have expected of him. And at the end of the day, we get to that last episode. It didn't really finish anything. They didn't stop anything from happening that they set out to stop in the beginning. And so now you're left with everything is just as messed up, if not worse, for them being involved than it was before, right? And that was a head scratcher. I don't understand the direction they were trying to go in. The only one in this whole show I felt like actually had a story arc was Balin.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I think I couldn't agree more. Those first 4 episodes of the Balin arc or story, in my opinion, that may have saved the show. It may have gotten us as interested as we were in the series.
Yeah, so I went from super hyped to really, really enjoying it until about midway through. And it was kind of when they got to the planet, when they went through the intergalactic journey and they got there, it just felt like a massive anticlimax to me at that point. But one of the things I really noticed about it tonally was it was almost as if the creators of the show had listened to the fans or looked at what we liked, looked at what we didn't like. And they had this show, they had this idea of Ahsoka, or Dave had this idea of Ahsoka. And I think it was going to go one way. And then Andor happened. And then people were raving about the adult drama and the pace. Well, not everybody, but most people were raving about that stuff. So they probably thought, oh, that works. That seems to work. People like that stuff. So we're gonna put that into Ahsoka. And then what you had lots of that dramatic, as Brian was saying, you have lots of dramatic pauses, but really no narrative to back up any of those meanings. So, and I know that Ahsoka folded her arms quite a bit in the Clone Wars and Rebels anyway. I know that's her thing. But man, did they overplay that? You know, it was like every time she wasn't speaking, she was doing this, and I'm trying to think. I get it. There's a lot going on in your head. You know, you're an important character, but right now I feel like I should also be contemplating something, but I don't know what to contemplate because there is not a lot going on. You know,
Right.
so I was getting taken away by the fleet. Loved seeing the fleet. You know, whenever there's any OT Rebel stuff in there, it's like, yeah, you know, the fleet was amazing. Chopper and, you know, like you said, a ghost and all of those things. But for me, it just felt, I was just disappointed kind of almost every time I watched it, except for the first few episodes. I was really like, guys, it's great. You know, where's the story going? I was massively hooked. Yeah, massive build up. We get all the way across the galaxy, intergalactic space. And we turn up at a boring ass planet, right? There's just nothing there.
happening. Yeah.
Right.
And a weird whale graveyard where there was nothing to break down the whale's biology, by the way. So I kind of find that interesting how we've got bones and stuff floating around the planet. You know, who ate the flesh anyway? And
Space
it kind of, in my opinion, it struggled with the same issues that season 3 of The Mandalorian struggled with. Book of Boba Fett, and that's that dumbass storylines or silly mistakes in the narrative. Like, you guys nailed it. You know, what was Ezra doing all that time? You know, well, no attempt to get off that planet, no attempt to do anything major. You know, it's just kid uses the Force. You know, what was the blue guy doing with his time other than eating the turtle people, maybe, or, you know, getting a bit? I know that's fair enough. He's putting on the pounds. Happens to us all, right?
Agreed.
But I'm kind of thinking, why has he not taken his badass Star Destroyer and gone and messed up with the local planets and think, hey, I'm the new kid on the block. I'm making a new empire. It's 10 years, right? I mean, it's It was just as if as if Dave's mind, it was like minutes after the episode where, you know, Ezra and that lot sort of went through and came out the other end. And it picked up at that point, but it didn't, though, because there was a lot of time that passed. So I just found myself being irritated. And I got towards, I tell you what I did more than anything, and I didn't do this as much in the other shows, was I was clock watching. I kept checking the progress, thinking, surely there can't just be 10 minutes left of this or 8 minutes left. How are they going to wrap this up? And they didn't wrap it up. You're right, Dennis. They never really wrapped the storylines. It was just a lot of cool stuff. I'm not knocking it. Cool scenes, great characters on the most parts. Hattie and Balin, just love that stuff. And character designs, you know, and droids and ships. Brilliant, beautiful looking series. Absolutely. You know, no more Cespa Vespers here. But it was the narrative. I just felt damn disappointed.
At some point in the series, I thought to myself, it felt like they were treating it as a mini series, as if they knew there wasn't going to be a second season, right? So now we're going to cram my entire thought process in these 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Which leaves no room for any sort of little development, for any. And the other thing that I didn't understand is why they could have easily did the old Star Wars 2 stories at once, right? There's no reason why we couldn't have flashed to Peridia.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Seen some sort of a whatever Ezra's doing, whatever Thrawn's doing, go back to, you know, the galaxy we know, and back and forth.
You mean that famous Mrs. Lucas editing where you've got,
I think they need to rehire Mrs. Lucas.
Yeah. If you can you imagine if they had gotten out of their known galaxy within the second or third episode, and then done that back and forth through the duration of the series,
right?
Where you've got the rebels preparing for it and they're fighting to keep him from coming, and then that last episode he arrives, and the rebels see that he's there. What kind of tension and would you build in that whole process?
I mean, we don't know exactly. So Ezra's missing for 10 years, right? We don't know exactly how long they're on that planet, because again, the story doesn't tell us. Did they arrive right there? Did they find that a year later? Either way, why is Ezra not looking for the Mortis?
Right?
He knows all about it. He discovered it.
does.
He's the second or
Mm.
third person to ever discover it.
Yep.
And if
There was
he's
also
on
some
that
of the-
planet, that's an easy way home for him.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff around Sabine, she was beginning to irritate me towards the end, and I actually like the character, and I quite like how she played it as well. But when she found Ezra, and they were sitting on those little noti pod things, and they were driving along, and if it was me, I'd be having a massive conversation right now. If I was Ezra, I'd be wanting to ask, okay, right, how did you get here? Who's with you? How am I getting back? What's happened? And all she keeps saying was, it's complicated. And he's accepting it. It's complicated.
Right.
This is a massive thing happening right now, but
Mhm.
they didn't
Yeah.
seem to want to talk about it. And it came across like she was, I mean, maybe this was on purpose, but really selfish. I remember sort of looking at her and thinking, damn, this is, and maybe that's how they wanted us to feel. But she threw the future of the galaxy away for this, and I'm thinking, I don't really understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The strange
where
thing
that-
about that, James, though, is exactly what you're saying. In the very next episode, Ezra comes out and says that now he knows all that, but they don't discuss it in the episode, right? They lead you to it. She's telling him nothing while you're watching, but in the very next episode, all of a sudden he knows everything that's going on.
Yeah, I felt myself getting irritated for those silly little things, and I tell you why that annoyed me more than the bigger things that annoyed me about the other shows, right? Was because they were things that didn't need to happen. So Book of Boba Fett, there was lots wrong with that show. The entire narrative structure, in my opinion, again, just my opinion, some of the design choices and things. Okay, you can say there were pretty big fumbles, like Boba Fett's character, Boba Fett's storyline, for example. Yeah. I feel the same way about Mandalorian season 3. I feel that was a massive, miss target for me. I know some people love that, but whereas Ahsoka had everything in place for it to be an amazing show, and I still really love it. I'm not saying I don't enjoy it. It's a great show. I enjoyed it, but it had everything in place. The effects were amazing. The designs were fabulous. There was all these great characters, all this huge backstory. Everything was in place. And then they just do some really dumb narrative things.
I know that Dennis has seen all the Clone Wars,
Mhm.
and James, you have as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So between Dennis and James, they have that history. I've
Right.
watched Rebels, and I know for you, Ron, there's not a lot of that context, right? Because you haven't watched all of that stuff.
Correct.
So you watching Ahsoka, did you find yourself lost or frustrated, or like how was it to watch that without really having the knowledge?
I'd seen
Sure.
enough of both to understand who the characters are, who the big players are, and so I wasn't as lost as I thought I was going to be. Everything made sense, except like Dennis pointed out, I forget what they're called still, the whales.
Yeah.
And that was about it, really. That was the only thing. I knew they were in Rebels. I just didn't know the whole history behind them. And I even think in Rebels, they don't show them as often, but they may have explained them a little bit more. See, and I didn't get that.
Yeah. I mean, there was one episode entirely where they deal with them.
Right.
Okay.
I don't have, I'm prefacing all this to say I don't have problem with certain things that they do as fan service. Ahsoka comes out on the wing of her ship in a spacesuit. For some of us, we're going to be like, really? And then others
Yeah.
that recognize it from Clone Wars, awesome. And that stuff would be really inconsequential in the grand scheme of things had the story captivated us and took us somewhere and then left us somewhere. We're left with something that to me feels like lazy writing.
Yeah.
And the whole thing felt like lazy writing. And I don't say that idly because I'm a big fan of Filoni. I love what he's done. I like that. But, I can't say I enjoyed the show, really, because I spend more time being frustrated about what I felt like we were going to get versus what was delivered. And I think that's a big problem for Star Wars as a whole going forward is it's not about saturation. Everybody keeps saying, well, there's too much of it. No, there's too much lazy Star Wars.
Yeah.
You look at the polarizing effect the show Andor had. What was great about it is you had people that hated it, but they didn't just They didn't just dislike it. They hated it with a passion.
Right.
That's almost as good as having people love it with a passion. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I was wondering also throughout this thing, like, let's say Filoni did have all this written down, right? Let's say this was the next upcoming season of Rebels that never got made.
Yeah.
This is his opportunity to do it.
Mm.
I feel like he took a 22 episode season and tried to cram it into 8 shows.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest drawback of this series. I mean, what we did see in the series was cool, right? You had tons of, like you guys were saying, fan service. Everybody liked it. You had somewhat of a story, but it felt crammed and rushed. And it felt like every time they were filming, they were looking at the watch. Oh, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Let's do this, and let's get it here.
Yeah.
It felt rushed, and it also felt like they weren't really in a hurry to get it done. You know what?
Yeah.
That's a weird thing.
Yeah, it's weird. You're
to
right.
combine.
Exactly.
You're right.
I
was gonna
wonder
say-
if the writer's strike or any of that had any effect on this towards the end.
That was all done ahead of time, though. I mean,
I
when
thought
we
so
saw
too, but I wonder
Yeah.
if maybe people who were in charge of animation for Zeb or something, maybe he was gonna be in it, and due to budgetary constraints or just timing, they couldn't do it, you know?
I mean, maybe.
I was going to say this is Star Wars, right? So this is important. This is like almost an international treasure. You know, it's a big deal. When Star Wars came out back in the late 70s, it was iconic, and it changed cinema history. We all heard that. We've all seen that, right?
Mhm.
And I think it's therefore massively important to get it right now in the 2020s and 2010s or whatever. It's important to get it right. And I think all I'm seeing is almost a disrespect for the material. That's kind of how I'm feeling as a Star Wars fan. And I don't mean that to sound like overly dramatic, but every single episode should be top notch. There's no excuse for it not to be. Okay. There is content out there on Netflix and Apple or whatever you're watching that is way better than this stuff.
Yes.
And it pains me to say it. This is my Star Wars, but there is stuff out there that is written better, filmed better, dare I say directed and acted better as well. And that surprises me because Star Wars was always the mantle for that. It always did it so well back then. It kind of led everybody else. And you've got sci-fi shows out there now that are far more engaging story-wise.
We should just say it outright. Star Trek.
Well,
What,
yeah, but not
what
not
Picard
just,
did in the last season, what
Yeah,
the
not
Strange
just
New
that.
Worlds is doing. But I mean, that's a
Yeah.
perfect place to point out, being like, well, you're telling me that they have more money than Disney and Lucasfilm?
Absolutely, you nailed it. And I think so. But it's a niche, right? Star Wars these days is a niche. So, and this is why this whole Ahsoka story kind of really fascinated me as to why they would go down this road, because this is even more niche.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is niche Star Wars. So Star Wars in itself is a niche, but this is niche because you, like you were saying, you're going to enjoy it more if you understood the lore and you'd watched it. And this has happened at work. I've spoken at my day job. I've spoken to people about Star Wars, and they've like, oh yeah, we watched The Mandalorian, but we watched Andor. No, we watched Book of Boba Fett. Got a bit confused with the whole sand thing. Some people didn't watch it anymore. They got bored of that. Tuned in for Andor. In their opinion, it wasn't going anywhere. So I loved it, but they got bored of that, and they've not even bothered with Ahsoka this time because they feel like they can't access it. And in that crowd, there's even some people that I know are Star Wars fans. I haven't actually been driven to watch it.
Yeah.
And that worries me. It worries me for the franchise. I teach 16, 17-year-old kids every day in my day job. Ain't none of them talking about Star Wars. Not really. Not unless I'm teaching about it, because I bring it into my lessons. But it's not something that they rave about. Not in the UK, anyway. So
No.
they need to fix it. They need to fix it quick.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
My wife watched 2 episodes of it and stopped watching it.
Wow.
She was just like, yeah, I'm not interested. Like, and she loves the character. She's like, yeah, this is boring. And it was like, yeah, it kind of is. I'm actually surprised that all 4 of us have that sort of same feeling. I not to single you out, Dennis, but like knowing that all the lore about all of these things, I almost was worried about bringing up the way I felt about it, because I thought you were going to be like, this is the greatest thing ever.
We said this, Brian, didn't we? We had a little chat, just a tiny little chat, because I was thinking our boy Dennis, he's bound to love this stuff, but It was really refreshing to hear
And-
your opening words to say,
and
you loved it. You loved it, yes, but
It's my character, so I mean, I loved it. There's no
Sure.
doubt, but
Yeah.
I see the flaws. I'm not. I mean,
Yeah.
they're that obvious that it's
Yeah.
not. I don't care what the love affair is with what you're watching. The plot
Yeah.
holes and it's
Yeah.
that obvious.
Yeah.
And what is the issue with Star Wars or Lucasfilm or Disney not recasting?
Mm.
All these people are available to you and are there. Why
All
do you
those
send
characters, you mean?
C-3PO in? Why do you send C-3PO in? They could have sent Princess Leia in there for 21 seconds and blown that whole
Oh,
episode
sure. I see
wide
what you
open.
mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
I think you're right.
Everybody and their grandmothers would have been tuning in at least to watch episode 5.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't understand
Yeah.
why they don't do it.
And I think there's another thing that Lucasfilm suffers from, at the risk of opening up another can. So, our original trilogy was made a certain way, filmed a certain way. And there's no secret that Lucas himself was always pushing the envelope. It's why that movie got made the way it did, with Industrial Light and Magic coming in.
Right.
And then when he made the prequel trilogy, my biggest beef there was he fell in love with a new technology using CG for everything, and then overused the holy crap out of it, right? I mean, he just shoved it down your throat to the point that, for me, it didn't feel Star Wars to me anymore. It lost that continuity. And I feel like we're seeing the next generation of that. They built the volume, and it's amazing. So now we're going to just do everything in the volume. And then when we don't, we'll drive 10 minutes out of town to the same landscape they've used for the last 50 years in making films because it's cheap.
Yeah.
Right.
And then when I watch Andor, I see all these locations, and it feels like a huge budget movie, and everything has depth to it, and I can buy all of it. Whether you liked Andor or not for what it was, visually, it worked more for me than what we're seeing now from Mando and Ahsoka and so on.
Yeah.
So where do you think they go next then? Because this, if you think about this right now, you've got 4 old guys, right? All Star Wars fans. We love this stuff. And here we are, all looking a little bit disheveled. Okay. I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed it. I know what you're saying, guys, but I did. But I was so disappointed with so much of it, as I have been with most of the stuff except for Andor and season 1 and 2 of Mando. So where did Lucasfilm go now? What do they do next? And how are they going to recapture what we feel it's missing?
I don't know that they're gonna, because they constantly are relying on technology. They're just not. Go back and make an old school movie and let's see what happens. Do another Andor. What are they going to do with Balin? They're not going to recast Balin. What, that's it. We see him up on top of a mountain looking over the same peak that Anakin Skywalker was looking at when he was on Mortis, and that's it. We're done.
Maybe they have to start all over. I mean, it's tough, right? Because of everything that's happened prior. Another thing that may have to happen is, and what made the 3 movies so great, I think, what added to them, is maybe stop putting so much out there. Stop saturating. I know, yes, there's the Disney Channel and you got to have something, but maybe stop that. Make us wonder, well, where is the next Star Wars something? But then that's a double-edged sword, because then people will be disinterested altogether. And you bring out something, they'll be like, that's old. I don't want to watch that, and then the ratings fail. And so it's a very thin line as to where to go from here.
But if they're not going to work in this in this timeline that they're in right now, okay, where you still have the big 3 are all still alive, right? You got Luke, Han, and Leia still alive. Then go to 100%, go the Mandalorian route. Get me some new people. I don't even want to know. I don't even care what's going on back there. Let's get the new guys. Let's move this way.
I was just going to say,
get away from it.
They came out with 3 movies, right? They came out with 3 movies back to back.
Yeah.
That they had moderate success, but there was a lot of frustration at the end of that trilogy. And everybody was saying, I remember reading nonstop, Star Wars is dead. Star Wars is dead. And then they roll out a tiny little show called The Mandalorian,
Mhm.
and everybody's saying Star Wars is saved. What saved it? It wasn't bring all these famous
No.
characters back. It was the same thing I've been screaming for since Disney bought it,
Yeah.
was give me something I didn't even know I want and just make a good show. And they were on
Yes.
track for 2
Yes.
seasons. They crushed it. And
Yeah.
then they complicated it.
Yeah.
I
and
mean,
made it dumb.
what are we gonna get with Lando? That's such a tiny window. You've already seen everything through Solo. So what
I
does
know.
that give him?
It's
Maybe.
another one of those. It's another one of those decisions, isn't it, Dennis? It's like
you've seen him through Rebels, you've seen him
Yeah.
in Solo. It's a very tiny window in there to try to, now they're gonna make a movie out of it.
I know they're giving
Yeah,
us this,
too much of
this
a
content,
secondary
and it's-
character too. I mean, the interest just isn't there, unless Danny Glover really piqued people's interest on a younger Lando.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And they've
And
already
I
had
thought
the
he was
issue
great.
with the Solo
was.
film, right? The Solo film wasn't particularly successful. Well, it wasn't successful at all, was it? And Lando was in there. So, well, when they sit around these tables in their board meetings and they go, "Oh yeah, we'll do a Lando show," that went down well. Everybody loved Lando, right? Well, did they?
Yeah,
I mean, I
but-
did. I thought it was quite cool actually.
I
It was
almost get
probably
the
the
feeling
best
like-
thing of the Solo film. But do we really want a show about that?
No, but they're probably trying to get their money's worth out of the Glovers.
That's and it's their
Right?
money's worth out of everything, right? It's
It's
the
signed the guy,
blood
so
out of a
let's
turnip
juice this
mentality.
thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You can't tell me that there aren't creative people out there, writers, that would bring you a script for something no one's ever seen or heard of that takes place in that universe. Rogue One is arguably one of the best since the original trilogy. It could be considered one of the better films to be made.
Yep.
And
I
it
agree.
was it was a sliver of a sentence of an idea from one clip of the opening crawl that gave us a really great story with a bunch of characters. We didn't need Jedi in there. We didn't need anything. It was a cool story. Are you telling me that set in the original trilogy era that there aren't cool little individual stories you could go find for us and tell us? We would eat that alive. I guarantee it.
Even the prequels, I mean, showing a couple of Jedi's struggle after Order 66, and
right?
having, introducing a whole new characters right there, during that time period. I mean,
how powerful!
Because then on top of that, you could bring back a Vader trying to hunt them down.
Sure,
I mean, kind of like Obi-Wan, but just totally new characters.
The Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order character. The whole his story arc, like, give me that movie. If you're bound and determined to give me something we know, give me that one, because that's an interesting storyline.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The way to go.
Also, interestingly, visually as well, those video games, they nail it. I mean, the introduction to the Fallen Order, the first of the 2 Jedi games, where you're following that skiff through that landscape. It's like, why can't we see some of this in the TV show? It's all possible.
I'll tell you what I'd love them to do is go back in time. You know, when we got the role playing game that was really popular about 10 years ago, the Star Wars:
Knights
The Old
of the Old
Republic.
Knights of the
Not
Old
the Knights of the
Republic,
Old
yeah.
Republic, but Star Wars: The Old Republic. It was that big RPG game.
Yes.
Some of those opening scenes they were showing you where the ship opens and there's 20 Sith coming out of the door. Like, that's interesting, and nobody knows any of that. I mean, the common fan doesn't know that lore.
You remind me. I remember watching some of the making ofs of the prequels, and I know, Brian, you've always been quite open about your distaste of them, and I get it. I do get it. I mean, I've always enjoyed them. I quite like the Anakin storyline, but what was interesting about that was that George Lucas at the time was surrounded by people that were just in awe of working with George Lucas, right? So they weren't necessarily going to say, "Hey, George, that's a sucky idea.
Yeah,
that's not going to work. This is stupid." That Rick McCallum or whatever he was called, the guy that kind of worked with him. I mean, I don't want to offend the guy, but for me, I don't really think he had start. I'm not going to go down there, but I think that he there was pound signs there, definitely, or dollar signs, but nobody was really telling George at the time that perhaps that's not going to work, because this is George Lucas, right? George Lucas knows his stuff. Okay, look at the first 3 films; they're amazing. But now that's not the case anymore. So you've got creatives all trying to make their mark in the industry, And I know if I'm a 3D modeler, and if I was working on those shows, or I was doing, or taking any decision at all in any of those shows, damn it, would I try and make sure that decision was the right one? So where is the quality assurance in these conversations? Where I just, my mind blows how some of this stuff gets on the screen.
It's not risky. I don't know if you guys feel that way, but a lot of times I look at it and I go, they played that as safe as they could and tried to get out alive instead of going out there and showing us something crazy and putting it on the line, right? I mean, Lucas made those movies that way.
Boring now. I get bored of seeing lightsaber battles. I'm sorry.
Does it really make sense to be one of the biggest companies on the globe and not want to take a risk? Well, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose?
Money. And you're not going to lose all of it, but
you're making the most of it. Even if you lose some of it, you're still on top of the world.
Yeah. I agree. I think they're doing more damage to themselves for the future than not by, I mean, and it's funny because like we're four guys that nobody knows that are sitting here telling them what they should do, right? But the bottom line is I reach into my wallet every time the word Star Wars is on in any capacity. So I think we have some clue as to what we're talking about when we talk about something we have. I mean, Ron, we're all sitting in rooms where we've spent a lot of money doing this because of a passion for it. And I think that's what bothers, if I'm going to speak for all of us, I think it bothers us all to put that much energy in something. And then the company that's delivering it isn't doing that same level of energy.
Right.
We just feel like, really, that's what we got,
However, David Tennant's droid, Hugh Young, whatever he's called. I love this guy. I think that was a fantastic character. I love the narrative he brought. Great to see him piloting the ship, taking a real. He had probably more to do, I think, than some of the other main characters. But
that wasn't CG, right? That was practical.
Yeah, there's mixture of both. I would have thought, but mostly practical, right? And I loved that because it kind of felt like seeing EV-99 or some of those old characters in Jabba's palace where they're kind of wobbling around because it's great. I loved all that stuff,
Her ship was amazing.
Oh, beautiful, right? That little workshop.
Sir.
Wow.
Yes, the workshop was.
So that's his ship from years and years and years past.
Yeah.
Hu Yang's ship?
Yes.
He's old, isn't he?
Oh, okay.
25,000 years old.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I had no idea the age range.
Yeah.
Right.
I know when Ezra was making his saber in there and they're pulling all the drawers and it's just like, my maker mind was blowing up with like, that's it. I'm ripping out everything in my garage and I'm building an entire workshop that's going to look just like that. That was exciting. And that was an interesting bit of storytelling.
Pretty sure that was full on IKEA.
Yeah, probably.
And I also loved Ezra's old, the radio tower, or whatever it's called. Seeing the insides of that and all the tech and stuff. And there was some really nice locations.
That's why I hate getting so mad at it because there were some really nice elements to the whole show.
Yeah,
visually was some great stuff.
And I think that say the Hattie and the Balin, almost a storyline, but their scenes were just brilliant.
Such great characters, and they did nothing with it.
Yeah,
right.
It's disappointing.
And where did we get? Brian, you touched on it earlier. We actually left in a worse position, right? Because we spent the whole series. In my mind, we were spending the whole series trying to stop this dude from coming, the Blue Man Group from turning up, right? And no, wait, he did. And actually, Ezra goes, but still decides to keep his stormtrooper outfit on right until the last minute. I mean, I'd have took that shit off if I was in that spaceship well before. I'd have got my jeans on just so that I didn't get shot when I got out of it,
Yeah.
Anyway, but he's now in OT Galaxy, and actually, Sabine and Ahsoka, the main star, are now screwed over on the other side of the galaxy, and the whales have got they're over it. They've gone. They're like, I ain't getting my ass shot up for these guys. They've left,
and it could be argued with Balin that you put Balin exactly where he wanted to be, and you kind of get the impression that what he wants to do is wipe everything out and start over, right?
Yeah,
it's
in that galaxy.
Yeah, so now he's almost in touch with whatever that element is that's going to help him do that. So you're helping him succeed, you helped Thrawn succeed, and then you hosed yourself. Now you're having a campfire with turtles.
I got this
So it's
feeling
almost
that
like-
Balin wants to be the son. Right?
Mortis.
Ahsoka is the daughter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you have Anakin as the father. And that leaves only one person unclaimed in the Mortis.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to learn about this Mortis thing.
So
I
the
didn't really-
daughter is the light side, the son is the dark side, and then the father is in the middle, right?
Ah,
He's the
okay.
balance. So
Mhm.
they consider Anakin Skywalker the balance.
Gotcha.
Ahsoka has already taken the spirit of the daughter because that's how she was brought back to life. And that
Okay.
leaves the son open-ended.
Yeah, and there's that niche stuff again, right? That
Yeah.
that should be impactful. That should have been explained to everybody.
Yeah,
I
we
got-
should
I got
know
it.
about that.
Yeah,
How
like-
exciting would that be?
Like how
Yeah.
many people knew that very last scene of Balin standing on that arm is the exact same scene that Anakin last posed on Mortis before they left the planet?
No
Same
idea.
mountain
Didn't know
peak,
that.
same light, same everything.
I didn't
to
know
speak-
anybody had even been to that particular galaxy.
Yeah.
It's not that galaxy. So
Oh.
the Mortis family came into the OT galaxy the same
Oh.
time everybody else left that planet.
As confusing as that would have been for anyone who hadn't seen Rebels or Clone Wars, they still could have done it the same way they kind of showed Anakin juxtaposed with Darth Vader, where they could have kind of had a lightning flash and just flashed both scenes at the same time to just
Yeah.
make you know this had happened before with
Right,
Anakin.
yeah.
And then that would make you go back and want to watch some of the previous stuff to try
Sure.
to understand the
Yeah.
history too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And Hayden has been, fantastic. I think in everything we've seen him in this time
Yep.
round. I liked him in the original, in the prequel movies too, actually. But in Obi-Wan and stuff, it's so great to see him doing his thing and still looking
is.
so damn good. He's
Mm-hmm.
he's getting on right. It must be. I mean, I don't know. He's looking good. But thinking of Anakin and that sort of the last scene there, it was. I was thinking to myself, so okay, like I was just saying, we've got Ezra back over in the OT. We've got these guys still over here.
Mhm.
Then Anakin shows up, and there's some dramatic music, and he's looking over them and all sort of smiley, and they're like, Ahsoka's looking at Sabine, they're doing their thing, and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, what are we all so happy about here? We've screwed up. We've screwed up.
He
right?
should
This
have
is
been like, well, you guys blew it.
yes, it's a bad thing. What are we? What's this dramatic? Oh yay, woohoo moment? Because actually, we're like,
Yeah.
well done, guys.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
I think at the end of the day, we're all kind of in the same frame of mind, at least, right? We
Yep.
didn't hate it. It was worth watching. I enjoyed parts of it, left a little frustrated, and now I'm kind of just wondering what's next.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Where do they go from here, and how do they make it better?
I'll be honest, I'll be super disappointed if Balin is not recast.
I'll be disappointed if they don't take this in another direction, because early on they talked about it being a single series like Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that would be pretty sad to leave it in the condition it's in, because
Yeah.
it doesn't really do anything.
I just want to see the fleet with Zeb up front meeting Thrawn coming through the other end of that thing. Ready
Honestly,
to kick some
that-
ass.
I
That's
wanted
what I
more.
thought we were gonna
I
get.
wanted more of that level of Thrawn and his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rebels, when he's involved in that in the last two seasons, it's his intellect and the way he manipulates things. It is so good.
Mhm.
And here it was like, we didn't get enough of it.
Yeah, we got a glimpse of it.
Yeah, very small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am conscious, however, that being massive Star Wars fans and fans of ILM and Disney, if any of you guys actually do end up watching this podcast, because I do know a few of you now from ILM, no harm intended. There was some really great stuff. We just want more of the awesomeness that we know you can give. That's all this is.
Oh yeah.
It's a great show. But yeah, try harder.
Take risks. That's what I would say. If someone asked me, if someone from there asked me and cared about what I had to say, I would say, stop playing it safe and stop giving us what you think we want and give us something we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look back at Mandalorian and take notes from that, and Andor.
Exactly. Yep.
Yep. I feel even Mandalorian started taking that turn.
Oh, we
right?
did. Yeah.
We
season
got
3
what we
was-
wanted, and season 3 was
Yeah.
Exactly.
exactly what we don't want.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I've just not watched season 3 again. I've watched 1 and 2 over and over and over.
I
I
am
can't
with you.
revisit 3.
I am with you. A
Anyway.
lot of things that happened in that weren't necessary.
But we've got Skeleton Crew up next. So
Yeah, that's how they're getting off the planet.
That's going to sound. I like the sound of this, so that's good. You know, let's do it. Let's have more.
This Skeleton Crew and Acolyte are the next 2, right?
January 2024 release for Skeleton Crew.
Ah, okay.
I guess, as George would say, faster, more intense.
Yes.
think
Has to
that's what we
rhyme,
want.
sort of like poetry.
Yeah, that's what my wife says that too. Anyway, so I think we've chatted about Ahsoka. We love it. We were disappointed. We wanted more. Wasn't perhaps what we thought we were getting, but there was some cool stuff in there. So yeah, it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster, definitely for me. But like all the shows, I'm glad it's there. I'm glad it exists. It's great to be talking about new Star Wars, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Just being able to chat with my friends about Star Wars again. You know, doing that as a kid, doing that as an adult. What's not to like about that?
Right. That's right.
But yeah, hopefully we get to look forward to the Skeleton Crew, and it gives us a little bit more of what we're looking for. Hey, who are we? We're just a bunch of guys watching this stuff and critiquing it. But anyway, I know there's lots of you out there that feel both for and against, and it's everyone's opinion. As Brian has said many times before, Star Wars is like a great diner. You go there and there's lots on the menu and there's something for everyone, and that's what makes it truly good. That's such a great slogan, concept, Brian. I love that. So let's take that to the comments and let's see what everybody thinks. It's all good. Thanks again, guys, for watching. It's been a little while since we've done this, so we're back at it, and hopefully we'll be bringing some more your way very shortly. But thanks for watching and chewing the fat of Ahsoka.
Thanks all. See ya.
Cheers.